Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a fantasy horror film, Hellboy, Part 1. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins in World War II in 1944 in Scotland with a famous professor, who's also President Roosevelt's paranormal advisor. Along with him are American soldiers, because the Nazis will attempt to open a portal to a paranormal dimension in order to defeat them. They reach the Nazis' base, where they see Hitler's top assassin. The Nazis start to power up the machine, and Grigori, a prominent agent of Ogdru Jihad, wears the gauntlet to open the portal and awaken Ogdru Jihad, the seven gods of chaos. Grigori is assisted by his devoted follower, a Nazi scientist. The portal opens, so the general throws a grenade and hits one of the Nazi scientists, causing the portal to consume him. The explosion causes a pillar to fall to the machine's controls and the other scientists. They start to invade the Nazis, but the Nazi assassin stops them and defeats all the soldiers. Professor then throws a grenade below the portal, so the Nazi assassin immediately tries to get it away from the portal, but it's too late. The grenade explodes, causing him to be thrown away and stabbed to a pillar by a metal. As the machine starts to burn, the portal slowly consumes Grigori. The portal starts to close, but Professor says it has been open for too long, and something may have come through. So he instructs the general to search the area. While a soldier helps Professor walk, the Nazi assassin is no longer in the pillar where he got stabbed. As they enter the base to search, Professor shares a story about a soldier who was poisoned, tortured, and drowned in 1916. That soldier's name is Grigori, and they just encountered him. They then hear something behind, and as they look around, they see a small red creature. Professor instructs the soldiers not to put their lights down and not shoot as they are scaring it. He then gives the creature a piece of chocolate, which it eats. Professor asks for a blanket and tells the creature to jump down. Before giving it another chocolate, Professor notices that the creature is a boy, so he gives him the name Hellboy. 60 years later, 3 people search for something in the snow mountains of Burgo Pass, Moldavia, where they uncover a stone with the same writings in their book. They break a wall of ice and continue to search for the sacred place. One man says they shouldn't be there, when the man behind him suddenly throws gold in his direction. He picks it up and sees the Nazi symbol before the Nazi assassin stabs him with his sword. His blood flows down from his body to the floor, where Grigori rises from death. On the other side, in Lexington Oncology Center, New York City, where Professor is diagnosed with a life-limiting illness, leaving him with 6 weeks to live. He declines being given medical attention and says he would rather stay home. Later in the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, a man from the FBI named John comes. He enters the lobby, and the floor becomes an elevator. John enters Professor's office, where he sees a lizard man, a humanoid amphibian, inside an aquarium. Professor introduces himself, but before John can introduce himself, Lizard Man interrupts him and states every information about John. Professor informs John that Lizard Man was discovered alive in a secret chamber in Washington. They took his name from the note stuck beside his tank, with the date that Abraham Lincoln died. John follows Professor into a secret room full of paranormal objects. He then introduces John to a fellow agent, and he gives John chocolate bars before entering a sealed room. John is immediately fascinated as he discovers that the story about Hellboy is true. Standing before him is a 60-year-old Hellboy, who still looks like he's in his 20s, as he doesn't age like humans. The fellow agent informs Hellboy that John will be his new liaison, but Hellboy doesn't like him, so John gives him his favorite food, chocolate. The alarm then suddenly rings, and Hellboy tells John that it's time to catch the bad guys. They enter the museum using a garbage truck, where Professor meets them. Lizard Man puts his hand on the door, before informing them that something evil is behind, with terror evident in his eyes. Hellboy enters alone and looks around, where he sees dead guards and broken statues, then asks Lizard Man for more information about the entity. Hellboy discovers the alien when a slime falls from the ceiling as it eats a guard. Lizard Man informs him that it's called Sammael, son of Nurgle. Hellboy shoots Sammael and walks away, thinking he killed the creature. However, Lizard Man tells him that it can resurrect, so Sammael is no longer there when he turns around. Hellboy asks Lizard Man how to kill it, but there's no information about it. Suddenly, Sammael attacks and sends him flying, alarming the other agents to back up Hellboy. Sammael continues to attack Hellboy, and he gets thrown out the window. Hellboy stands up and sees Grigori, who calls him his son. Grigori claims to know Hellboy's true name, but he suddenly vanishes before Hellboy can shoot him. Sammael follows Hellboy down and avoids getting shot by grabbing Hellboy's hand using his juicy tongue. John helps Hellboy by shooting Sammael with his pistol, but Hellboy is not pleased with the meddling, as he prefers to work alone. Hellboy asks John to load his gun with a tracking bullet and shoots Sammael before it runs into the city. Hellboy follows Sammael in the subway, where it runs towards the train and rips open the door. The operator thinks that Hellboy is also an enemy and hits him with an extinguisher. Hellboy tells him that he's a good guy, but the operator doesn't believe and hits him again, causing him to fall under the train. Hellboy quickly recovers from the fall, tackles Sammael, and breaks its jaw, but his attack is in vain as the jaw returns to its place. Sammael then prepares to bite him, but Hellboy immediately touches a rail and electrocutes Sammael, finally killing the creature. After that, he instructs John to inform Professor that Sammael has been taken care of, and not to wait for him to get home before turning off his tracker. The next scene shows the Nazi assassin, Grigori, and his Nazi scientist in an abandoned subway area, where the Nazi scientist shaves Grigori's head and gives him his eyes. They then see Sammael's souls, which Grigori takes. He claims that Sammael has fulfilled its destiny before consuming its soul and rebirthed 2 other Sammaels. Meanwhile, Hellboy goes to the Bellamy Psychiatric Hospital to see Liz, a pyrokinetic human woman who was also adopted by Professor. Back at the museum, an FBI agent named Tom talks to Professor while Lizard Man touches a sword. He then calls Professor and shows him that the Nazi assassin is responsible for Sammael's attack. Professor begins having trouble breathing after seeing it, so Lizard Man accompanies him. As he touches him, Lizard Man discovers Professor's sickness. Back at the psychiatric hospital, Hellboy vents his problems to Liz, saying that his father is mad at him before asking Liz to come back. Liz answers that she doesn't like staying in the hospital, but she has to because she can now control her powers. Professor and John arrive with other agents to fetch Hellboy, and Liz tells him not to come back if he really cares for her. They return home, where Lizard Man discovers that Hellboy's wound has 3 eggs from the alien. He immediately informs Professor, who instructs John to search the subway tomorrow if there are more. Later on, while John is researching Liz, Grigori goes to Liz and makes her remember the past through her dreams. This causes Liz to awaken her powers and blows up the whole hospital. Later on, while he brings pancakes to Hellboy, John claims that he knows how to bring back Liz through his research, but Hellboy doesn't acknowledge him. The following day, John goes to the hospital to ask Liz to come back, while Hellboy and the other agents are in the abandoned subway. Lizard Man tracks a pulse behind the wall, and Hellboy smashes it to get in. Hellboy removes the cover of the manhole, and Lizard Man swims down to get the eggs. While he lightens up the place with a light stick, Hellboy sees the Nazi assassin, so he goes after him, and the fellow agent joins him. Meanwhile, as Lizard Man is getting the eggs, Sammael suddenly attacks him, so he quickly hides in a corner. Lizard Man notifies the other agents above using their tracking device, as the 2 Sammaels climb up. The agents immediately prepare their weapons, but they're too slow, so the 2 Sammaels attack them. On the other hand, Hellboy loses the Nazi assassin, but discovers their hideout. While he looks at Sammael's information, one of the rebirthed Sammael stares at him from the ceiling. It then jumps on him, causing them to fall down the subway. The 2 engage in a physical struggle involving a box of kittens, which Hellboy can save. He then swings Sammael down the rail, so Sammael tries to pull them down, but a train comes rushing and hits Sammael, killing it. Meanwhile, while the eggs hatch as Lizard Man gets out, the agent sees the Nazi assassin. He repeatedly shoots him, but the bullets are in vain as he remains woundless. He then reloads his gun, but the Nazi assassin promptly approaches and stabs him multiple times. Hellboy hears the gunshots and runs toward the agent. When the Nazi assassin hears the heavy footsteps of Hellboy, he turns a switch in his chest and pretends to be dead. Hellboy tries to contact the other agents, but they are not responding. On the other side, John successfully convinces Liz to agree to come back to the facility for the weekend. Professor welcomes her, while Hellboy angrily throws an oxygen mask as Tom calls him a freak, before storming off into his room. Professor dismisses it and examines the Nazi assassin's corpse, where he discovers a piece of paper and a switch on his chest that continues to rotate. Meanwhile, as another agent walks toward Hellboy's room to deliver his food, he hears a loud banging inside. He hurriedly opens the door and sees that Hellboy has escaped by breaking the wall. Hellboy follows John and Liz, as he's jealous of the fact that John gets to hang out with Liz because he prefers to be a HormoneBoy rather than a Hellboy. Meanwhile, as he studies the piece of paper, the Nazi assassin wakes up and wears his suit. The Nazi assassin enters Professor's office, where Grigori is seated behind him. Grigori shows Professor a glimpse of the future, where Hellboy opens a portal that causes an apocalypse. Professor calmly tells Grigori that he's ready to die before the Nazi assassin stabs him behind the neck. Back to Hellboy. He stops stalking Liz and John, who gets picked up by the agents when he sees something wrong. He returns and finds his father dead. After Professor's burial, Liz talks to Lizard Man about her concern with Hellboy, who hasn't spoken to anyone after his father's death. Lizard Man advises her to stay with Hellboy and watch after him. The next scene shows Grigori and his Nazi scientist returning to Moscow to a military base. The general shows them a large stone they have been looking for, which they pay for with gold. Meanwhile, in the paranormal headquarters, they finally uncover the mystery behind the piece of paper, so they will go to Moscow with Hellboy. Liz tells Hellboy that she will come to Moscow if Hellboy will. While on board on their way to Russia, Tom shows them a grenade they can use if they encounter a big enemy. They use a car to reach Moscow and hide Hellboy inside a cargo box. They leave their vehicles, and Hellboy looks around the graveyard, stopping at a tombstone and rebirthed a corpse by chanting a ritual. He goes back to the other agents and introduces the rebirthed corpse, who points where they should go. As they enter the tomb, they get separated into groups by a booby trap. Hellboy tells everyone to use their locators if they see anything strange. Hellboy's group gets out of the room, and the door closes. This causes an argument between Tom and Hellboy, as Tom says they should go back and break the door open. However, a big hammer hits the bridge, causing the agent and the rebirthed corpse to fall down, while Hellboy and Tom cannot return anymore. Hellboy quickly grabs Tom and slides him inside as the big hammer hits the bridge again. He almost falls down, but balances himself and gets in, right before the door closes. Hellboy sneaks into the tunnel and sees the Nazi assassin listening to a vinyl disc. Tom gets too close to the wall and a spike pricks him, so Hellboy instructs him to be quiet, so the Nazi assassin will not discover them. However, when they look back, the Nazi assassin is gone. They get inside the Nazi assassin's hideout, where the Nazi assassin reappears and slices Tom's jacket. Hellboy quickly blocks the Nazi assassin's knife, grabs him, and then rapidly punches him. Instead of groans of pain, the Nazi assassin lets out laughs as the spikes under the floor resurface. Hellboy manages to grab onto a rope, which the Nazi assassin attempts to cut. However, Tom distracts him, so Hellboy uses the rope to pull the Nazi assassin, pushes him down the spikes, and throws him a metal wheel. Hellboy searches around, and hears Liz and John beneath him. John's group sees many rebirthed Sammaels protecting the eggs. Suddenly, the group gets trapped, so the agent sets the grenade, but a Sammael attacks him. As he hears the noise, he pounds the floor to help John's group. Hellboy fights all the Sammael by himself, while Liz tells John to slap her to activate her power, and helps Hellboy. John obliges and awakens her power, causing her to destroy and kill all the Sammaels. John wakes up after Liz's attack and sees that Grigori and his Nazi scientist have their grenade. They chain John and destroy the grenade switch, but John is busy roaming his eyes around. He sees Hellboy chained as well, while Liz lies unconscious on the ground. Grigori shows them the stone and says that it's the door to Ogdru Jihad, the 7 gods of chaos, and Hellboy's right hand is the key to open it. Hellboy refuses, but Grigori takes Liz's soul, forcing Hellboy to agree to cooperate. Grigori tells Hellboy his true name, which he repeats, causing his cuff to unchain itself. What's more, as he stands up, his horn grows while a crown of fire is on his head. He unlocks one of the doors, and a beam of light shoots up to the moon, opening a portal and freeing the Ogdru Jihad. While the Nazi scientist is not looking, John unchains one of his hands and picks up the rosary. Before Hellboy unlocks the next door, he tells Hellboy to remember who he is, and then throws the rosary at him. John knocks down the Nazi scientist and reminds Hellboy that he has his own choice. Hellboy returns to his senses, so he breaks his horns and stabs them at Grigori. This causes the beam of light to vanish, and the Ogdru Jihad to return to being a stone again. Hellboy carries Liz, while the alien inside of Grigori's body comes out. The Nazi scientist goes to Grigori and kisses him before the alien from Grigori's body kills them. On their way out, Hellboy decides to go back to fight the alien. John hands him the grenade with the broken switch, which he takes. However, the alien suddenly grabs Hellboy, making him let go of the grenade. The alien throws Hellboy around, but Hellboy takes a sword from a statue to defend himself, and he picks up the grenade. The alien then grabs him by the foot, so Hellboy quickly pulls the grenade's pins. As he gets eaten, the grenades explode inside the alien's stomach. After destroying the alien, Hellboy returns to Liz and John, only to be informed by John that Liz has no pulse. Hellboy then whispers something into Liz's ears, reviving her. The movie ends with Hellboy and Liz sharing a passionate kiss without using their tongues, while Liz's powers wrap around the nasty two, meaning that she's ready to do a smelly workout with the HormoneBoy. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.